This is The Convergence.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of The Convergence, where every week we talk about Web 3.0 and its convergence with sustainability. I've got a brand new friend here with me today, Patrick Skinner from AGAMI. We just literally met, I think, yesterday on LinkedIn 2 days ago. It's only been a couple of days, but you've got a connection with Michael Moyo, correct? And Michael's been on the show a couple times. As I've disclosed in the past, I'm an investor in his newest venture with Apex. Tell me a little bit, Patrick, about your background. I saw you're an ex-military guy, right? How did you get into this Web3 space?
Okay, to really condense it, what I was a U.S. Army combat medic paratrooper, and I turned mass casualty coordinator almost overnight. I was actually the mass casualty coordinator for the earthquake in Haiti, and so I learned a ton about really what really happens on the ground level with that kind of stuff. And it kind of started my journey as far as really trying to look for and develop solutions for really needed cases that you don't typically see every day, but they can be honestly life-changing. And so that's really how I got started. After the military, time I was teaching mostly combat medical stuff, mass casualty coordination, everything. And of course, being in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, back in 2012, 2013, I ran into a lot of talks about crypto. Yeah. And that was really my first true introduction to it. I've heard of crypto and everything in the past, but I really haven't delved into it. But then I started actually seeing physical use cases, like people actually using crypto and everything in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, all the way back in that time. And so I was like, okay, let's do a little bit of research on this. And that, of course, I bought a little bit, very little. I think it was probably like $10 to $50 worth of my first crypto at that time.
Which is worth what, about $3 billion right now? No, just kidding.
I know, right? and of course, I'm that use case that didn't hang on to it.
Yeah,
right. But it was really interesting just kind of seeing what that process was. It was really clunky. It was really like at the time, I still remember it took me like 3 days later to even realize that I actually had the crypto and I didn't get scammed. And I was like, okay, cool. And so, but I didn't do anything else with it. I saw a lot of the possibilities, but at the time, the use cases weren't really very commonly sourced on a day-to-day basis. So then I kind of put it up. I kept staying in the medical world, kind of teaching everything. But at the time, I got really interested as well as into programming and things like that. So I completely became a self-taught, self-certified Python programmer, got really big into API integrations, things like that, and really developing really strong use cases for integrating different softwares together to just make our days easier. Come around.
You and I talked about coming into the show, right? It's not the 90s anymore. I mean, if you have people that are working on spreadsheets and updating spreadsheets and managing that kind of stuff, I mean, that is very, very 30 years ago, and it's something that's quite easy to automate anymore. But it is shocking, particularly big profitable companies are still doing it. It's the reason I have a consulting business outside of this. So I'm okay with that.
It's amazing how they'd rather just kind of pay for the manpower to just punch the numbers in rather than, put in a solution that's an expandable solution that'll last them for a while.
Right.
Come about 2016, I was doing a lot of software development stuff for people. But over my shoulder, I start hearing about the new smart contracts and things like that. And now I'm like, okay, that's a use case I'm really interested in. Started delving into that a little bit more. And at that point, I'm like, okay, it's still not there yet, but I love where it's going. So I went back to software development, started my own few companies. And since then, I've started 4 companies. And so I was always just very busy, kind of mildly keeping the tabs on it, but wasn't really delving into it. And it wasn't until last year, all the puzzle pieces came together, all about the NFT market, all about the new use cases that were coming into it, DAOs, governance, everything that was there. I was just like, okay, the sandbox is ready. I can jump in now. And so I grabbed my business partner, who at the time, he actually kind of set me off on this whole thing where he was like, hey, have you ever heard of a DAO? And I'm like, well, I vaguely, and I know a little bit about it. And we just started jumping in and just learning more about everything. And that's where like, let's do this. We started AGAMI. AGAMI is a luxury watch company that has Web3 technology built into it. And it's been a really interesting build so far. It's been a lot of fun. And you know, I'm ready to kind of delve into why AGAMI does what it does.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this. And I think the good thing is that I think guests up to this point understand about DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. The joke used to be in our first couple episodes, we didn't even know how to spell DAO, right? Because everybody was like DOW. But I think also because Evergreen Carbon Offsets is one of my sponsors that has taken carbon offsets and turn them into NFTs in order to guarantee sort of authenticity and you know, make sure that you're not being scammed. Let's talk a little bit about how your product. What by the way, when does it launch? When are you taking pre-orders yet? Or
so we have a whitelist right now. We're allowing people to sign up for the whitelist. The official launch of the very first 3 watches, we actually are doing a PR run on July 27th in New York City. We actually got picked up by an amazing marketplace called Lith Token, LITH. Their entire premise is to the improved and basically the embetterment of lives that are within lithium mining. And nice. So it's an amazing marketplace. They picked us up. They selected us as their featured product. We're going out to New York City. They actually are taking care of all of the advertising at Times Square. There's going to be about a week long of advertising of their marketplace and our product at Times Square for about a week. And
nice.
We have a few interviews and stuff lined up as well. So we're really excited about that whole thing. That's when it launches.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about the concept. How do you make a Web 3.0 watch? What is built into this watch that makes it different from everything else in the market?
I'll tell you how I got the idea. I walked in my father-in-law's bedroom and he had on the TV. You ever see those TV shows where people bring their old products and an appraiser, not like a pawn shop, but an appraiser comes and they kind of appraise the product. Yeah. There was a version of that on the TV, and this retired Navy guy had an old Rolex dive watch, and he was getting appraised and everything. And he bought it during Vietnam. Went to Switzerland during his vacation time, during his leave time. Came back with the watch. Was literally sitting on the dock to use the watch, and was like, you know what, it's too nice. Just put it back in the box, put it in an ammo can, close the ammo can, never open it again. And so he had the bill of, the receipt, a bill of purchase, had their certificate of authenticity, and even had a warranty slip all in the box all together. And the appraiser basically said that the watch by itself in its condition was worth about $250,000. Okay. I'm like, wow, dude, that's amazing. Yeah. Really well kept watch, really rare. And then he said, because of all the papers and the condition of the papers, it's $600,000. And at that time,
that's a big difference.
I had to like wrap my head around the fact that it wasn't the product, but the 3 pieces of paper had more than doubled the value of that product. And that's when it clicked for me. At that point, I'm like, okay, hold on. There is this thing about certificate of authenticities. And a certificate of authenticity is basically an old version of a non-fungible token. I mean, that's basically what, in a use case, that's exactly what it is. And he basically had a ledger statement, which is basically kind of like a ledger inside of a blockchain, which is that bill of sale. He had a warranty, which is basically kind of a warranty could be a line of code within a smart contract. You could put warranties inside of a smart contract if you want. And then the last part of it is the NFT. What comes after signing the smart contract is that certificate of authenticity, to make sure that product that you received is a genuine product. And at that point, I had thought about a lot of the things that I've kind of dealt with in the past. I've dealt with, I've worked, very mildly in human trafficking. I've worked in counterfeit markets. I've worked in all kinds of different spaces and trying to deal with those sectors. And it made me immediately realize, with a luxury product industry being a total since 2010, a total of $4.5 trillion, roughly about $380 billion annual currently, and the millions of dollars that go into that industry into combating that, I thought, okay, how can we pair a physical product with an NFT, and what are the true use cases of that process? And so obviously the main use case that we're kind of alluding to at this point is combating counterfeit market. Like obviously, sure. Something that happens and pawn shops lose thousands of dollars to is somebody takes in a stolen product, they purchase the stolen product, it goes into their database, and then later on they find out the product was stolen, and then they have to basically, even though they gave that person money, they have to give that product back for free and hope that the cops catch them so that they get their money back. And even then, that's a month's process.
Yes.
So then we were looking at this. We did a lot of market research. We're like, okay, who's already doing this? At the time, Prada was already talking about doing their launch, and they already did kind of like a beta launch of some handbags that they sold with some NFTs. I went through the customer journey and found out, okay, the NFT really isn't ever physically tied to the product. So I can't really take that NFT and show, hey, that NFT is validation of this product, but it doesn't still really truly validate the product, because I could have sold the real product, got an identical counterfeit, and said,
it's
hey,
the combination, right? Yeah, the combination of the two is what's
it's
valuable.
The integration.
Yeah.
So then at that point, that's when we did a lot of development, and we actually filed for a provisional patent to actually have a protocol that allows the tethering of a physical product to a NFT.
Nice.
And now there's already a few different protocols with patent pendings already out there, but ours is based off of an NFC chip. There's currently one that's based on a QR code. There's another one that's kind of more of an open source called the Known protocol. Yep. And that one isn't really overlapping on QR codes or NFC chips.
If anybody doesn't know what an NFC chip is, let me pull one up. Here's my business card. I leave one in my phone, and I just program it with an NFC reader, and it says, here's my LinkedIn, here's my email, and somebody can touch my phone, and physically it transfers, or it sends them the web address essentially to certify that, or not to certify, but to give them all that information and transfer that onto their device. Much, much more efficient than a business card. And I have a couple of them because I have them for different companies, and then I have different levels of access. If it's somebody that I just, they just want to network, I'm like, hey, here's my LinkedIn. If it's somebody I want to do business with, I'm giving them they're scanning a chip that has a little bit more detailed information, where they can see, who I work with and all sorts of things.
Here's the amazing thing about NFC chips and how they can be applied towards a sustainability model. Our watches, we really wanted to develop a watch that would last a lifetime, because I needed a product that would last just potentially just as long as the NFT itself. And so,
good point, because it's got to be something that's passed down generation. If it's just disposable, who cares? Doesn't matter.
And let's be real. As soon as you change the battery, as soon as you open the watch, it loses value. Yeah. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, how do we develop a watch like that? So we developed a watch that's based on automatic movement, and automatic movement essentially it's based off your kinetic body, where as you move it, it has weights in there that will continue to wind the watch. So it's batteryless based on that. As long as the watch itself is well kept, it should last forever. And so it's based on perpetual motion. Now, here's an interesting thing is, like, we thought about it, and honestly, we didn't know this in the beginning. How does the NFC chip get power? And in my mind, I'm like, well, the only NFC chips I've ever really interacted with are like credit cards and stuff like that, and obviously your phone and maybe your Apple Watch or whatever. So how does that work? It's actually based off magnetic induction. So as the NFC reader is putting out a signal towards the NFC chip. It uses magnetic induction to actually power the NFC chip itself.
Interesting.
Which is really freaking cool. It allows us to kind of keep with that lifetime model of our product.
Yeah. By the way, that magnetic induction is a model that some electric vehicle manufacturers are looking at too, to essentially electrify the roads so that you don't have to stop and ever charge an electric vehicle. You just drive across the induction pad and your vehicle stays charged. So you're going to hear a lot more about this magnetic induction in the future.
Well, it's already being used within high-speed trains.
The high-speed rail systems. Japan, in particular, I think, is doing all magnetic induction now.
It's all based on magnetic induction. You'll be amazed on how much power they actually don't use because they have that magnetic induction system built into the train system. Yeah. It's amazing. Nice. So at that point, we understood how we wanted to connect the physical product to the NFT. And we knew that was a strong use case. We had lots of different use cases of somebody taking it to a pawn shop. And instead of somebody having to look up the product, the pawn shop owner or worker can scan the watch itself, not only identify that it's a legitimate product because they can identify the NFT that's attached to the product itself, but they also are able to see the ledger of ownership.
Sure.
So it not only does it prevent counterfeit, but it prevents theft.
Yeah.
So at that point, now that person that has the watch has to identify that they themselves are the holder of that NFT. And that's a huge component to us. So it's like, wow, okay, we could save some serious money and make sure that people are not getting scammed when they purchase a luxury product. So I think where you kind of see where this is going at this point, where the watch company is basically a proof of concept. We basically have a 5-year plan to make this entire proof of concept aggregate as much data as humanly possible based on secondary sales and everything like that, package it, and then possibly resell it to other luxury brands. And so that's really where we've gotten to on this.
So I want to talk with you for a few moments about Evergreen Carbon Credits, one of the sponsors of this show. I started working with Evergreen when I was telling a friend of mine who's involved with that company about my efforts to try to learn more about blockchain, NFTs, crypto, all the things in this space. And he showed me Evergreen. Evergreen was a really unique solution. I've looked at carbon credits in the past. I've been in the sustainability industry for almost 15 years. I understood what they were. You were buying an offset to offset the carbon footprint that you or your company has. But I also understood the challenges with that. They're sold in very, very large blocks, and then people break those blocks up and try to sell individual credits or small clusters of credits to businesses. And that creates some room for fraud, for people to not be up and up on what that project is, if that carbon credit is real. And there's challenges with that. And you can Google it right now and find there's a big case in Europe going on about fraudulent carbon credits. But what Evergreen did, I thought, was really unique. They took this idea of NFTs and they took blocks of carbon credits and broke those things down into tens of thousands or even millions of individual carbon credits. They can actually fraction those even out to a tenth of a carbon credit if they needed to. And they were able to then create a smart contract around that carbon credit so that you can track it back to its origin. You can find out what project it was associated with, but you are also guaranteed that the carbon credits you're getting from Evergreen are the real deal. You get that certificate, you get that certification that only the blockchain can do. So that's why it made sense for them to come on as a sponsor of this show. We're talking about all this new technology, and with new technology comes higher energy usages in some senses. And Evergreen is here to help offset that. If you want to look to maybe improve your image in the marketplace, maybe you're looking to offset some of your carbon footprint, not even just for your image, but actually for the sake of the planet, head on over to evergreencarboncredits.com and check out what they do. You can buy credits for as little as $11, and you'll get the certificate and the NFT that you can put in your wallet that shows that you've actually made that contribution. And that money, particularly right now with the projects they're working on, is going to reforestation in the Amazon. I think that's something we can all really get behind, particularly when we understand that the the environment, the climate we're all connected to it. It doesn't matter if we're putting off emissions here in the US or if it's happening in Mexico. It all contributes to the same global problem. So why not be part of a global solution with Evergreen carbon credits?
We wanted to keep our eyes open on additional use cases, just in case, obviously, as the market moves, we wanted to understand if we needed to have a shift or pivot or anything like that, what else can we use this for? It's a Web3 space. This is our sandbox. Let's play in it. So we had a big whiteboard session on this. And we thought about, okay, obviously, even though our watch is really built on a sustainability model, it's made out of refurbished woods, refurbished metals, and things like that. How do we make it something that is not necessarily carbon neutral, but how do we make it carbon neutral? And that's when we looked at the NFT royalty system, which is called EIP 2981. And EIP 2981, there's a big misconception, I'll tell you really quick. It's not built into the smart contract. A lot of people think, oh, as I build in a NFT royalty, I have to write that into the smart contract. You can write it into the smart contract, but it's not operated there. It's actually operated inside the marketplaces. And so as of now, I know of your two biggest marketplaces they do support royalty standard, which is OpenSea and Coinbase. The one that we just got picked up for, Lith Token, they also support EIP 2981. And so essentially the idea is on secondary sales, depending on what you have set within the NFT royalty standard, money will continue to go to whatever you have set for the royalties in perpetuity, as long as those marketplaces exist.
Okay.
And so that's a kind of a big component to it. But as long as those marketplaces exist, I could be long gone and dead. As long as those marketplaces exist,
or with the current market conditions, it could be tomorrow. We don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And,
with the volatility of Coinbase right now, I don't know.
That's true. And so in that statement, we wanted to kind of plan for a long-term plan. The nice thing is too, I will say, is the EIP 2981, if set properly, it's transferable from marketplace to marketplace. So if Coinbase dies and OpenSea or Lith Token or anybody else that supports it still exists, then you can move those NFTs from one place to another. So that's an important component. We thought about that and we're like, okay, now how can we use NFT royalty standard to our benefit for our model? Now, of course, for our P&Ls, I could say, all right, 5% goes, 5%, 10%, whatever, goes back to AGAMI. We actually didn't necessarily want to do that. We said, okay, what if we were to do some sort of green initiative and partner with some sort of green initiative that every time the watch resells, it grows trees or carbon credits or anything like that. And we're like, wow, okay, this is a strong idea. We could not only make these watches carbon neutral, but we have enough data to say that if the watches increase in value by about 15 to 20% per resale, it only takes about 4 resells to actually erase the carbon footprint of the watch itself. And which is pretty solid at that point. And not only that, we can also increase that royalty standard to do other supportive elements.
Sure.
And so we really went down that rabbit hole and developed something that was really cool. We ended up deciding, okay, instead of picking the royalty standard ourselves, me being an automation guy, I wanted to develop a really cool automation during the point of sale. And that was during the customer journey of purchasing the watch. They get to pick the watch, they get to pick some, additional features and things like that. But the last element is, what impact do they want to create? That's the selection that they want to make when that NFT royalty standard is placed. So we have partnered so far we're at about 6 nonprofit wallets right now that you can select them. They're all very different focuses. We have one for orphanages. We have one for Green Initiative. We have one for human trafficking. We have one for a specific military school for kids and things like that. Like, we have all kinds of things, and we're really trying to expand even more because we know, I think we got to that point where we realized, you know what? I love supporting companies that have a specific initiative, but what if you can go to a company and just because you love that product, you decided that you wanted to pick what initiative you selected.
Sure.
And that way you get to customize your journey a little bit more. And the best part about it too was not only does that first 5% go to that initiative, but that wallet stays attached to that specific watch in perpetuity. So one watch could be supporting orphanages. Another one could be supporting, greenhouse gas and all kinds of other things that we're trying to expand on. And so we wanted to set that up so that customers really found a way to, within a Web3 space, and this is something that obviously we're combating right now, a user experience that made them understand, okay, I get this Web3 thing now.
Well, listen, this has been great. We're at almost 30 minutes already. I can't believe it. So let's talk for a minute or so. How do you buy an AGAMI watch? When do you go on sale? What are the price points? That kind of stuff. Let's sort of talk through that.
Price points are going to vary based on design. The very first 3 watches are going to go for about $5,000, and it's just because it's like our founding watches. Right. But the price ranges will range anywhere from as low as $600 all the way up to about $3,000.
Sure, it's luxury. It makes sense.
Yeah, so we'll have like a minimalist design. We can have we're actually looking at doing licensing deals and things like that for our watches as well, because every single watch is going to be based on a limited run. They're not going to be continuous. And so how to buy it, you'll buy it online. You'll buy it on our website. We don't have the e-commerce application built in yet, but we do have our whitelist. So you can go to the website, sign up for the whitelist now, and be added to the whitelist. But and just kind of read all the use cases and everything as well. When you buy it, you will have the option to not be a crypto wallet holder. This is my favorite part. You don't have to own a crypto wallet. You can buy it in fiat currency if you want. And then when you receive the watch, you'll get prompted with 2 options: either open your current wallet or start a new wallet with our wallet partners. And from there, that could be your introduction into Web3 space. You don't have to know anything about Web3 technology whatsoever to buy and utilize our watch.
Yeah, and that's been a problem in a lot of instances. And I just had it happen myself. I bought some NFTs from a collection over the weekend, and they didn't accept the wallet that I had, and I had to go create another wallet and set everything up and the passcodes, and it's like, come on, this is ridiculous. But I mean, there's a reason for it to be there, and it needs to be secure. But you're right. I think making people do it before they transact is a real challenge, but allowing them to do it after they transact when they've got a little bit more time and they can get walked through the process, and there's not like, the time limits on OpenSea and all those other kind of things. That's pretty cool. So how do people find AGAMICO.com?
AGAMICO.com. Yes.
Perfect. When do you plan on going live? Do you have a live launch date yet?
So our live launch date for the next run of watches, we're looking at August 15th.
Okay, cool. So probably about the time this will come out, maybe a little bit earlier. So that's great. Well, listen, everybody, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Convergence. And until next time.
Thanks for listening to The Convergence. If you want more information about the topics you've heard here today, reach out to us at theconvergencepodcast.com.